Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Makers Bar podcast. I'm Suhavi Arya, your host, and today we have with us Shaurya Chauhan, co founder and CEO at Buckmint. Hi, Shaurya. How are you doing?
Hi, Suhavi. I'm good. Thanks for having me here. How are you doing?
We're, I'm good. Thanks for asking. We're so glad that you could join us. So let's get started. Shaurya, tell us what is Buckmint?
Sure.
And in layman's terms, please, because a lot of us are new to this subject.
Absolutely. Suhavi, Buckmint is a decentralized exchange that lets you to trade climate assets easily across the globe. So, by climate assets, I mean you can trade carbon credits, water credits, plastic credits, RECs, and so on and so forth within a friction of seconds. It is just like normal exchange. Let's talk about stock exchange or crypto exchanges, but decentralized in nature, which means it lets the deposits, the funds in the control of the user itself.
Okay. It's a very interesting idea. So, have you always been interested in? I mean, did you get into it because you're interested in the stock market aspect of it, or are you interested in it because of the environment?
I'm in it because because of both of the factors. First, anything related to finance somehow somewhere intrigued me. It has always intrigued me in my life. And second thing, environmental thing is something that is somewhat close to my heart. I've been following this passion since my school days. I would call it. Though the efforts were not too big at that point of time. Maybe at that point of time I was just planting saplings across my neighborhood. But yes, eventually that passion led me to start this business itself. Though earlier to this we were building some other business, but again we were using some form of sustainable form of factor over there as well. So yes, this itch has always been there, and now I got the opportunity to work completely 360-degree around climate solutions. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, and it's very nice that you're doing something that you care about and you're passionate about. Very few people are doing something like which includes like which adds money to it, but also it's something that they're passionate about, and of course you're helping the environment. So that's great. So I wanted to ask you, tell me what made you realize that there is a problem and this is your solution to it. Like, what was
Sure.
your journey towards the solution?
Sure. This is a slightly long answer, but I'll try to summarize it just to save
No, no,
time.
please elaborate as much as you can.
So Harvey, I mean, just to answer this, we have to go somewhat back in time. When we started our previous venture, it was a micro mobility platform. So within that, we were using EVs in our fleet size. The concept was pretty simple. It was very trending in Bengaluru region around 2018, 2019, where you can take this two-wheeler, take it anywhere, wherever you want, and park it wherever you want outside your premises, right? The idea was pretty simple. For last mile connectivity, 4-5 kilometers, you can take these two wheelers on rent and park it anywhere you want. We were using EVs in our fleet size. So as a secondary source of revenue to that company, we thought eventually we can generate carbon credits and sell it off to whosoever needs it. But we were so naive back then to understand that carbon credits are not limited to EVs only, but there was a much more bigger picture that we were unable to see back then. And when we were running that business, it was a very capital intensive business, asset heavy business model. Eventually we had to shut it down for multiple reasons, but asset heavy business model being one of those reasons. But when we shut it down, we deep dive into what are carbon credits, what is this market all about. This that gave actually us complete sense that we can build something around carbon markets, but what exactly? So then we kept on digging into what exactly. So we started with carbon footprint offsetting platform for individuals, where the idea was pretty simple. We created a repository of carbon credits, purchase it from a project developer or a broker or a middleman, and create a repository. So one carbon credit represents 1 ton of carbon emissions. So we fractionalize it into kilogram units and create APIs which can be plugged at the checkout pages of various consumer based applications. Let me simplify it for you. Let's say if you're ordering something from Zomato or Amazon or Swiggy or wherever you want to order it from. So during during the delivery of your product, let's say if that vehicle is going to emit 5 kilograms, 10, 20, 15 kilograms of carbon into the atmosphere. So as a responsible citizen for good karma, what you can do is you can purchase these units in kilogram units particularly. So let's say 1 rupee per kilogram. So let's assume your delivery partner is going to emit 15 kilograms. So you can purchase 15 kilograms of carbon emissions, 15 rupees worth paying at the checkout page, and then you can offset it immediately. So when we launched this model, when we tested this model, created the prototype, tested with some of the companies, some of their customers as well. It was a B2B2C product. So we realized it was way too early for individuals because very handful amount of people are concerned about what's happening in environment. Even if they are concerned, they are not willing to pay for it. So let's say if we would have been sitting in 2030, 2040, that time might be a good time to start this business, and the scale is very low. But when we reached out to the middlemen, to the project developers to purchase those carbon credits, that's where we found the actual problem, which is there's no price benchmarking, there's no price reference point. Uh, it requires hard negotiations to trade carbon credits. There's no fixed pricing, right? And this middleman actually takes the major chunk of this deal. Let's say if me being a buyer, I'm paying $20 or $100, the seller actually gets only 50 or $60. So if the remaining balance gets into the pocket of the middleman. And eventually, in order to get the liquidity in the hands of the seller side as well, it generally takes 6 to 9 months for them to get liquidity in their hands. Same thing goes for buyer as well. It requires a lot of time to trade carbon credits for the organization. So that's where we found a good opportunity that maybe let's build a platform, build something for these two parties where these buyers and sellers can come together directly in front of each other and they can trade it at a fair price. And another thing is with this concept, we can create price benchmarks as well so that both the parties can get a price reference point and they can quote accordingly. So with this thought, we came up with the idea of building Buckmint and exchange. Within exchange, we wanted to make it absolutely transparent, absolutely decentralize the control in the heads of the users. So we leveraged blockchain as an underlying technology here, and blockchain being a digital ledger technology, you can track down at any point of time whether any transaction happened or not, reducing all the issues of double counting as well, which is one of the again major issues in this market. So yeah, that's how this idea of Buckmint kept on evolving over the period of time, and that's how we are building Buckmint today.
Okay, so when you mentioned that there was no price benchmarking, do you mean that is it because there was nobody else in the market doing this? Is that why there was no benchmark to how much you could, what at what rate you could buy and all
So this is one reason, and second reason is whatever platforms are there, they all have been so centralized. Either they are either there were some platforms by the way, but they all are working on the marketplace principle, and there's a very huge difference in marketplace and exchange. Marketplace only allow one of the two parties to put their listing. Let's say if I talk about Amazon is also somewhat marketplace, right, where the sellers can list their put their listing and the buyers are supposed to purchase at the same price. Hence the price discovery can never be market driven. This can only be possible if we can let both the parties to put their bidding and then let the market decide the price of that particular component or asset. The same thing that happens in any exchange out there, right? Depending upon the demand and supply variability, depend upon the interest, depend upon the use case of that particular asset, and hence only we can come up with a number that this much how this I mean how this much how this product is worth or this asset is worth. So this is first thing. Second thing, this middleman thing has actually made it totally mess because they were not allowing the sellers to meet buyers, and they were not, and vice versa. So let's say if you want to trade via these middlemen, they can come. They were coming forward. They can take the money from the buyer and they were giving it to the seller and getting credits from the seller and giving it to the buyer. And during this deal, they keep their hidden portion in their pockets itself, which was a major concern. And third thing is the limited options, limited visibility. So let's say you being a buyer, you and me being a middleman, let's assume. So you're coming to me, I can only have access to 5 or 7 or 20 or 30 portfolios, right? What about the other portfolios? Now with one such exchange, you have a global exposure. So the sellers on this platform are sitting from global jurisdictions, and so are the buyers. So eventually, any buyer, let's say any buyer sitting in America's continent, they can put a listing, they can put a requirement, and any seller sitting in European continent, Asian continent, they can put their bidding as well, their listing as well, and can easily, this matchmaking can easily happen, and can this trade can be executed within minutes, within I mean, hour is a very big thing, within minutes or even within seconds as well, if the price is favorable to the market conditions.
So that's very interesting that you said that anybody sitting in any part of the world can be part of this transaction. Uh, don't different laws of different states or countries like affect this? Aren't there, like, I don't know if there are laws in India related to this. I don't think there are. But what about other countries? How do you work around that? Do you have to always be in the know of the law and things like that? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there are always laws. There are always regulatory compliances that we need to comply with. Having said that, even in India as well, there are a couple of laws that we have to comply with. So first of all, let me tell you, we are building Buckmint at the intersection of Web3, climate tech, and fintech, and these three industries are very huge in itself. So we have to comply with all of these three industries all together in all the jurisdictions that we are available so far, or we are planning to move into, to make our services available for those jurisdictions, right? So for in order to trade these assets on blockchain, on digital exchange, so there are some compliances required. For example, if I talk about India, we have to comply with FIU, which is Financial Intelligence Unit, right? Same goes for European continent, same goes for America's continent as well, same goes for Middle East region as well. So we have to comply with different regulatory bodies over there. As far as the climate assets are concerned, so again we have to comply with them, but there's a I would call, I won't call, use the word wall, but there's another party involved in trading these climate assets, which is tokenization players. So what they usually do is, let's say there's this afforestation project or solar power plant, hydro power plant, which is generating carbon credits. They first of all need to go to this real world asset tokenization player, which tokenize it for them. So once they are tokenizing it, they are keeping it in a repository, the actual credits, and create a digital identity of it on the blockchain, which are tokens, fungible tokens, right? And then these tokens are being traded on our exchange. So whenever any customer is coming on our exchange, they are only trading these tokens, which are, although they are backed by real world assets, which are climate assets, but they need not to worry about it, because they are only trading tokens like other cryptocurrencies per se. Not, these are not actually cryptocurrencies, but just for the layman term, I'm using this thing. So whenever, let's say, any trader comes in, they trade in, let's say me purchase it, I purchasing it x amount of tokens, I sell it off to the other, I sell it off to another party, got my profit booked out of it, and I'm happy with this thing, right? And this trading would keep on happening. At the end of the day, whenever this token is going to the end party, which is the business which requires these carbon credits for their emission offsetting purposes, they can then go back to this party which tokenize this carbon credit, right? So there are list of tokens available. So whosoever tokenize it, they can go back to them, get it converted into real world carbon credit. They have to fulfill those compliance requirements, those tokenization players. Having said that, we are building in voluntary carbon market. There are two types of carbon markets: compliance and voluntary. There are a lot of strict regulations around compliance market, but voluntary, as the name suggests, anyone can participate across the globe. So there are no such restrictions involved. But yes, there are some compliances that those businesses need to take care of.
Okay, great. Now, let's get back to talking about Buckmint. So tell
Sure.
me, you are a co-founder. So what about your other co-founders? What do they do? Like, which vertical do they manage and which vertical do you manage?
Sure, sure. So we are a team of three co-founders. I mean, we are three co-founders here at Buckmint. Me, Mayank, and Ram. And interestingly, Mayank and I are siblings. We were working on our previous company as well, which was a micro mobility platform. And Ram, I personally known Ram for last 7, 8 odd years before starting Buckmint. So if I go by words, so I am leading this company as the CEO. I handle all things related to product, fundraising, partnerships. Talking about speaking about Mayank, he is the COO. He has been handling all things related to business, partial partnerships as well, strategic partnerships particularly, or anything related to sales, onboarding, token onboarding, and so on and so forth. Speaking about Ram, Ram is the CTO here. He has been handling all things related to technology. Web3, Web2 doesn't matter, but just all things technology.
Okay. And I saw on your LinkedIn that you started Buckmint almost a year ago,
Yeah,
more
yeah,
than a year ago. So it's been long year of being an entrepreneur, and this is your second time being an entrepreneur, and this is a startup. So what do you feel has been the most significant challenge, or if you want, what are the significant challenges that you've faced in the initial stage of this business, and how do you feel that you and your team has overcome them?
sure. So there are a lot of challenges that we have faced so far. One of the most common challenges that most of the founders face is the talent acquisition, I would say. Because at the earliest of the stages, the founders actually needs to get onto the ground to get the initial team built by themselves, because that's how we can build our team, build our product, build our culture as well. A lot of things are involved around it. So with limited resources, with limited capital, you don't, and eventually you need the best of talent as well, which is not absolutely possible. So somehow we have to figure out what are the possible ways that we can tackle this issue with. And one of the challenges that we were facing is a couple of people joined us, and then after some point of time they left us for XYZ reason. One of some of the common reasons were they were getting paid uh, in a better manner at some other organization, which is fine with us. So yeah, we try to create some process around it, which involves, maybe let's say we interview two or three people. This is first priority whom we are hiring. So eventually we kept two or three other people in backup, so that let's say if any person moves on or left the organization, so we need not to spend another time for interviewing another candidate. We can immediately roll out the offer letter, because interviewing the right candidate also is a time taking and cumbersome process. So this is one thing. Second thing is resources, because when we were running our previous venture, most of our personal savings were lost in that venture. So thankfully, we need not to cope up with that challenge for a longer period of time, because thankfully we got a backing of a good VC. We got the backing of 100x VC. They are really helpful, super helpful, super connected in the industry as well. So all the networking, capital related issues were being solved by them. So whenever we come up with any such problem, we just need to get in touch with them directly. They are just a call away, and this all of these problems get sorted easily. So yeah, these are a couple of challenges, but talent acquisition, I would still say, and I whosoever starts it, I upfront tell them that please sort out your talent acquisition thing on day zero itself. If you can sort it out, your product is built, your sales process is done. Most of your challenges are already been taken care of if you can build a good team.
Yeah, but talent acquisition, I think, is something that people learn on the go, because you need to know your requirements before and then hire a person or number of persons accordingly. So I think as a business is developed, it takes that much more time to understand the requirements and then the talent as well.
Absolutely. And most importantly, for the earliest stages, you can't go out, put a listing on LinkedIn or Internshala that I need XYZ person, because you don't know the background of that person. Whereas in the founding team, you need some reliable people, knowledgeable people, and the people who can work in a high stress as well, because a startup is a high stress game. So you need people who can work in high stress as well. I'm not saying to put pressure on those people, but at least they should be able to handle some self doubts, because you face a lot of self doubts in this journey.
Yeah, and as you've rightly said, startup is a high stress journey. So, and since you are part of this, and this is your company, what do you feel are the key values of your company, and what do they represent, and how do you ensure that they are upheld within your team?
Sure. So first thing is we ensure that there is absolute openness in the company. There's no hidden room in our office. It's just simple open setup for all the teams, whether we are co-founders or even an intern. They can come, sit with us, eat with us, work with us, laugh with us, whatever they want to do. And even if they have, and next thing is what we have ensured is uh, we are free from all the tags here. So whatever tags you would see on our LinkedIn, that this is this person, this is this head of marketing, whatsoever. So within our organization, we are just a team, whether it is me or an intern or any junior hire, senior hire. So we don't call them by these tags. We just so on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, we sit together, we discuss what all things needs to be done. Another thing that we ensure is no matter which department you belong to, you are allowed to speak, you are allowed to put your thoughts onto the table of the different function as well. So let's say someone belonging to business side of it and they have some ideas, some suggestions, feedback on the tech side of it. We are happy to hear their thoughts, and we are happy to create processes around that as well, because we believe that, let's say there's some technical team who is working around the technical processes, they are working inside a bubble. And then comes a business person who knows zero, or who doesn't know anything about technology, which language we are using, but all he or she knows is, let's say I've seen this onboarding feature at XYZ platform, why can't we do it? This was a intrigue feature. I actually liked it. This was a time saving feature. Why not we doing it? So that's how we can come up with better things, if we can think outside of that bubble, and we can let people speak outside of that department particularly. So this is one thing that we ensure from day zero itself, that please don't put it on mails, just talk directly, because mail is a time taking process.
Okay. So you foster innovation. I'm paraphrasing you. You foster innovation by ignoring males and by just like discussing it and like talking it out. So
Yeah,
yeah, please
yeah,
continue.
please. So, because we are not a big corporate and we don't need multiple steps to pass through a process, we are just a small startup. I mean, startups are supposed to be small. Startups are supposed to work quickly, ideate quickly, iterate quickly. So, if we are putting it on mails, it would eventually require some time, and I might miss it. Eventually, I might be able to reply 24 hours later as well in some cases. Let's say if I have to work upon something more important than that mail, so this thing might get delayed, but eventually if this is just a conversation of 2 minutes, please sit with me, have this conversation, get it cleared, and start working upon it. Why are you waiting for anyone's approval?
Okay, makes sense. And earlier, you'd also mentioned that you need people in your team who can handle doubt. But tell me, how do you handle adversity and doubt? Because you're a young founder. This is your second startup. You know what you know how to shut down a startup. You've been there, and now you are in your second phase.
Sure.
So I want to know, how do you handle adversity and doubt?
Sure. So as far as adversity is concerned, so yes, this keeps on happening. This self doubt thing keeps on happening for all the people, all the founders at my age or maybe at our stage. But what I usually does is I keep on thinking what actually happened, how is it supposed to happen, then it compared to how it actually happened, how it actually turned out to be, how I should have reacted versus how I actually reacted, how I performed, and so on and so forth. And I keep on thinking, and then after thinking it for a good amount of time, and then I sleep over it. But one thing that I follow is both of these things should work hand in hand. So let's say if I just go and sleep over it without thinking about it, I won't be able to wake up fresh, and this thing would certainly hit my productivity. And another thing is, let's say if I just don't sleep over it and I keep on constantly thinking about it, this thing would again certainly hit my productivity. So I just think about it regularly, I give it as time as it required, but just for one day. I mean, just for night only, before sleeping, just give it 1 or 2 hours, not more than that, and then I sleep over it, so that whenever I would wake up fresh, this process worked for me, that I usually come up with an alternate solution to the problem that actually happened. And maybe that's how I cope up with this thing. I mean, this is my
On
process, would certainly vary person to person.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. I've never heard of anybody say that. I time manage my adversity and doubt by thinking about it for 1 or 2 hours before sleeping, and then I feel better. Which is, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a great way to put at it, like put it together, because everybody goes through these things, but you've put it in a box, dealt with it, and moved on, which is that's great.
But one thing that I ensure is I need my own space at that point of time. It can be my room's corner, it can be my office's corner, it can be my car as well. I just need some alone time to think about it whenever I am thinking, and then I probably discuss about it the next day, that this is the problem that happened, this is the solution that I have come up with. If it is about the business, then I go to my co-founders. Ram and Mayank happens to be my brother as well, my sibling. And if it is something personal, then I again go directly speak with my brother that this is what happened in personal life, and this is something that I need to work upon. This is the solution that I'm thinking. Do you think is it right? Just to get a second person's approval, because what I am thinking might not be right all the time. So need some discussions as well around it.
So, is it difficult to start something with your brother, somebody who you see every day, who you live with probably, who you've been to the same school with, or, have the same circle of friends, same cousins. You see them morning to night at home and at work. And is it difficult to then separate personal life and work life? Because considering, I mean, I know it's difficult for couples who are together to live and work, together, because it complicates things even between a father and a son who are in the same business. It's difficult, right? Like a son suddenly realizes how a father is in a business, right? Leading the business. So how do you feel it affects you guys?
Sure.
And if I
So
if
in
I ever talk to Mayank, sorry to interrupt. If I ever talk to Mayank, I would like to ask him the same question.
Sure. So, I mean, in my case, I would say it has never been a problem to me or to us, because so I've heard a lot of people speaking about it, that some at some point of time it becomes a problem starting anything with your siblings, or maybe with your spouse or with your partner. But eventually, I don't think so. Why? Because he has seen me since my childhood days. He knows my patience level. He knows what I want at what point of time. He knows what is my thought process. He knows everything, every inch, every bit of it. So apart from this, let's say if I come up with any immediate idea, if I'm sitting at home, I can immediately discuss this thing with him as well. I need not to wait for another day or for a WhatsApp voice note to send it onto my co-founders group or whatever, right? So this is first thing. Second thing, I would say, being a brother in your journey, because co-founder is a long-term relation, it's a long-term game, right? It is a game for next 10, 15 years, or if you are building it for a longer period of time, it can be more than that as well. So you need some people who has seen you in your down times, or maybe the times when the time was not good, or the people who has seen you in good times as well. Having said that, if I talk about my brother, he has seen me in all the phases, good, bad, worse, whatever I want to call it. Besides this, he knows me without even me saying a single word. What I actually want, what I am thinking, what is my thought process right now. If I am facing any doubt, or maybe if I need to shut down my whole process, I just need to look at him, and he can absolutely understand what I am trying to do with this business. Right. So this is the kind of people that I always prefer around me, and this is just human tendency. That's the kind of people that everyone wants to have around them, who can just understand them without even saying a single word. So this thing happens with both of us. I understand him, he understands me. So yeah, this process is a very nice thing to have your spouse or brother at least to work with you, because half of your tensions would be certainly reduced.
Okay, that's actually a new perspective, because a lot of people like avoid these things on purpose.
Yeah, because
So
then
yeah.
I would want to add one more thing. So let's say, because I was talking about the thought process as well. So we know the thought process of each other as well. So let's say if he's not present, or I am not present, or if I am occupied, so I can expect him. So let's say if some person is going to him and asking what would Shaurya say to this thing, so he already knows what I would think around this thing. Though there might be a slight difference, not 100% same, but at least he would be somewhat 98, 99% near to what I might be thinking what I would say to that to that idea or to that process, right? So eventually, that I mean, this way I can delegate my work as well to him, and he can delegate his work to me as well in some cases.
Okay, that's it's good that it's working out for you guys. So, talking again about Buckmint, and tell me what is the long-term vision for your company, for
Sure.
the co-founders? How, yeah.
Sure. So our long-term vision is to, I mean, drive meaningful changes and to inspire as many people, as many businesses as possible to join us in this journey towards the sustainable tomorrow. And this is something that we can only do by creating a, let's say, 360 degrees solution, 360-degree platform for this climate change solutions or climate related solutions. So yeah, our goal is to involve as many people as possible, as many processes, as many businesses as possible to come forward, put their hands, put their bids for compliance purposes, for good karma, for financial requirements, whatever they want. But at least the end goal would be meet, which will be I say net zero goal to achieve in across the globe as early as possible, because I really want my generation. I really want my kids, grandkids to see the world as we are seeing today, not in a polluted manner at least.
That's a very, very hopeful statement, because the way the things are going, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, we don't know what's going to happen in the next 20 years. And a lot of movies, like earlier, if you remember, a lot of movies were showing, like whenever there was like a world issue, something that's happening in the world, it would always be aliens attacking us, right?
yeah,
Like in the Western world. Now it's always fighting for water, a dystopian society. This I think I mispronounced it. I don't know. Huh? Fighting for water, fighting for clean air. Um, like no
inclusivity,
societal rules. Sorry.
inclusivity, diversity, no societal roles. So yeah,
Yes, yes. So
problem is the same.
yeah, so it's actually very difficult. I mean, a lot of people I think believe that world is going to change, maybe for the worse, in the coming years, and there's like environment is going to play a huge, huge role in whatever
Absolutely.
might happen.
Absolutely. And so, Avi, just to add, that's the beauty of Buckmint. So, we are not building it just for the sellers and buyers only. Rather, we had this belief that there's a very big chunk of untapped capital that is yet to be channelized towards green and renewable project in the form of retail and institutional capital, right? And that's the goal behind building Buckmint. So that, let's say, this is the project developer, the initial seller, and this is the big corporations, the end buyer. But between this, we wanted to bring retail and institutional investors as well to trade climate assets, because then only we can increase the value of these assets for those people who want to get it for their returns. And that's how we can increase the importance within the society as well, because if they start putting their own money, then only they can understand that this is actually an important thing to do for the society, for the environment, for the greater good.
Yes, and that would be like a great success story, right? If you manage to,
I
yeah. And so, speaking of success, what is, I mean, that is like a future success story. What is success for you right now?
Success for me right now, I'm on my path to success. I haven't I won't call myself as a successful person, because I believe the day I would add value to at least 300, 400 people in a personal capacity, that day I would call myself as a successful person. And this value addition can be financially, emotionally, physically, or whatever support that I can provide. That day I would count myself as a successful person, because then I would have a good network, personal network, but not the LinkedIn network, which is there just for a I mean, just for messaging purposes. But I would actually have 300, 400 people to in my connection, whom I can actually talk to, whom I can actually help, or whom I can seek help from.
Okay. And what is success for you, for your company right now? Like something that was, for example, something that was, which you thought was a failure or something earlier, but it turned around and became like either successful or give you like a valuable lesson in terms of
Sure.
like Buckment.
Sure. So I won't call it as a failure. So this thing happened in our last venture. As I mentioned, we were building it, and as a secondary source of revenue to the company, we were thinking carbon credits. That business got shut down, but eventually that just secondary source of revenue, which was just a minuscule unit, eventually evolved as a independent business in itself. So yeah, I would this I would call it as a successful thought.
Redirection.
Yeah, redirection, or a good pivot, hard pivot. But eventually that partial failure helped us to evolve ourselves into building Buckmint, and for which we are talking today.
And like this is your second venture. So how do you has your approach towards taking risks changed from your first venture to your second venture?
Sure. So our approach has actually evolved. So earlier, what we used to do is, okay, this is risk. This is what we can do. Rest we'll see whenever we'll come closer to that risk. But now we have actually created a process here. So we list down all the things, all the risks that we can face maybe in our journey for next 1 2 years, or the potential ones, potential threats or risks. We list down all the pros and cons, then step into the market. If require, get these subject matter experts help, what are the possible things that we can do. And then we take a calculated risk, or maybe then we take a action against that risk. Eventually also decide what is most important, what is more important, what is less important, and then we move ahead in our journey, maybe mitigating risk in some cases, I would say.
So do you feel that this has also impacted your the way you approach leadership and your leadership style?
Somewhat, yes. I would call it yes. It has actually helped me to evolve my leadership style, our leadership style at Buckmint as well. Because earlier, so see, the one thing that I mentioned, uh, I have always been working alone. I always prefer working alone. Since my college days, since my school days. But when we started building Buckmint, I realized that startup is not a single person game. You eventually require a whole team. And one more thing that I used to have this thought process that I like things to be somewhat perfect, in a perfect manner, whether if it is a deck, whether it is a some financial model, or any other Excel model, or any product launch. But after some point of time, I realized that everything can't be perfect, and I should delegate some task upon other. I should start having faith upon others, and that's how I realized that eventually that's how I can uplift them as well. That's how I can grow in my own personal sense as well, and that's how we both can add value into each other's life. It can be any team member, it can be any customer, it can be anyone.
Okay, that's great. And uh, that's great. And that's actually like a lot to take in as well. It must be very difficult to manage so many things every day. Like being, I mean, I understand if you say that being a CEO is just a tag right now. Your role in the company may change or whatever, but you're also managing like a lot of people, and maybe they come from different backgrounds, maybe they come from different corporate structures as well. And having gone through your LinkedIn, I've seen that you've worked for a couple of years before you started, like came like before you got into the startup world. So like the whole like the process, the change in processes must have been slightly difficult to adapt to, and adapting to people as well. I'm just thinking out loud over here.
Yes, absolutely. Though I would say some of my college experience also helped me out in some way, because uh, I was very active in student activities back then. I was a part of student council, where I used to, uh, uh, support a lot of college activities, club activities. I used to manage a lot of students over there, being a part of the core team. So that from that point, that role actually helped me to enhance my people skills. Having said that, when I went on to join that company which I worked for, got a good exposure over there. But I was working as an employee over there, and all the salaries, all the things, they were just my colleagues, right? I need not to take care of all the things, who are leaving, who are not leaving, who is managing whom. I never really cared, right? But when I went on to start my first venture and then this second venture, that's when I realized it's important to have people skill. It's important how it's important for you to know how you can retain people, how you can onboard people, how you can make them feel good, how you can uplift them, how you can give them leadership roles. So yeah, this is all this is really important. And I mean, I would say I've gained all these skills throughout this journey, and this is not a one night learning that anyone can achieve or possess. And I'm still in the process of learning that, fine tuning it.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, as an entrepreneur, like you said that there is talent acquisition that is important. There is delegation that is important. What else do you feel is critical for entrepreneurs to succeed?
What else is critical for an entrepreneur to succeed? All right. So you should be able to motivate yourself, because no one is going to do that for you. You should have some patience. You should have I mean, some persistence is also required. uh, you should be able to handle self doubts, because you are going to face a lot, trust me. But on top of it, one thing that I would want to say is, if you are doing it for all the fancy things, please don't do it, because there's no fancy life for startup founders. It is all the TV shows that has actually made it look fancy, but the behind of picture is very dark. But if you really want to solve some problem, or if you are actually attached to some problem, then maybe build a startup, but don't get addicted, don't get attached to the product or to the company. If you really want to get attached to, maybe attach with the problem, attach yourself with the problem, because if one product doesn't work, eventually to solve that particular problem you can possibly build another product, but the day you would get attracted or attached to that particular product, you won't be able to iterate it, because you face a lot of negative reviews as well, negative feedbacks as well, criticization as well, criticism as well, towards your product. But eventually always make sure that if someone is actually criticizing your product or giving you negative feedbacks, which means that person has already used your product, so at least you got one user additional. uh, and in addition to this, maybe he or she is saying something right which you are unable to see. So
Mhm.
these are the things that you should keep your eyes, ears, mind open for all of these things. So then only jump into entrepreneurship. If you are
And
able to listen to other people.
okay, so taking like the importance of feedback, the importance of critical feedback, and self-reflection is something that you'll add to the list.
Absolutely.
Do you, yeah, do you also, what other advice would you give somebody who's wanting to start their own company?
What other advice? All right. So this is again one common problem for first time founders, which is of the funds. So a lot of people think that I don't have funds, I am not able to start something, and this is very common thing. Even uh, there was a time when I also used to have the same mindset, at least not that much. But when I meet people, they commonly say this thing, that I don't have X amount of funds, I can't start. So you need not to look for funds, although what you can do is, you can possibly look for alternate options to this, and there are many more options. Because when I was talking to one fellow founder, I came across this brilliant idea when we were discussing that if you really want to build a tech product, wait for 1 or 2 years. If you don't have huge savings from your job, or if you are directly recent graduate coming out of your college, though there are a lot of VC programs now for early stage, I mean for recent graduates, but if you are not able to crack through it, so eventually what you can do is maybe try monetizing your skills. Maybe create a branding agency, digital marketing agency, or maybe a web development agency itself, and run it for 18 to 24 months, maybe 1.5 years to 2 years. How this can help? First, this can help you to generate funds. Second, your team would be sorted by that time, because you would get a stable team, you would get a reliable team by that time while building products for other companies. Third, in 1.5 to 2 years you would get a good network which you have built over the past 2 years, maybe in form of fellow founders, customers, users, or maybe investors as well. And whenever and fourth point is, whenever after 2 years down the line, whenever you would jump into the entrepreneurship with your problem that you actually found out, you would be able to build the product exactly, test it at a faster pace, iterate it at a better pace as compared to what you must have been doing or you must be doing 2 years back, right? In this way, you don't need extra funds, you need not to rely upon funds, you need not to rely upon talent acquisition, you need not to rely upon anything. And eventually, if you are doing it just for money, then maybe build a traditional business, not a startup, because there's a very huge difference between a startup and a traditional business. You can eventually make good money in traditional business itself.
And like you said, starting your own something, a venture on your own is also testing your own capabilities, right? How you
Absolutely.
handle stress, how you handle people, how you handle your own people, your clients, and how willing are you to, expand your horizons. I think that is also very important to know.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, this is one skill that help you to identify whether you can do the things by hook or by crook. Just in Indian slang, we call it jugaad. So if you
Yeah.
are able to do it, then only you would be able to succeed.
Yeah. A lot of founders that I've spoken to via this platform has used the word jugaad, and they, like everybody, we all stand by it, not just as Indians but also anybody who has that mindset to get things done. Like it's important to yeah, that's true. It's been great talking to you, Shaurya. I have one final question for you before we end this podcast. Um, do you have a book or a mentor or an event that has significantly influenced your journey and impacted the way you've reached here today?
All right. Uh, Books. I'm not that book frenzy, so I won't. I can't name out any book. As far as any event is concerned, so there were multiple events. One is my college life, so that actually helped me shape to what I am today. Helped me build my people skills. Whatever events that we were doing, that made me realize, made me believe that I can possibly do something. uh, then I went on to work for my company that actually gave me a good exposure. That was another event when I went on to another city to work for that company, because up till my grade or something, I was living in the northern part of India. I was living in NCR region. I was living in Delhi. But the moment I went on to the other city, I realized I actually went to Bangalore, the Silicon Valley of India. So that's when I realized that ideas are dime a dozen, but if you are actually able to pursue an idea, you can bring changes into the society for a greater purpose. Third thing is a recent change last year itself, when our investor called us for a demo day, when I presented in front of a huge number of investors. So that actually gave me a sense that maybe I'm doing something good and I should keep doing it, because not only investors, a lot of people after that event reached out to me on LinkedIn, on through personal connections, that sure, whatever, if you come up with any problem, though we are not able to put in money, but we don't want to charge any money either. If you come up with any problem, do let us know. We would be happy to help you out through this journey, because we wanted to do something in this space, but we couldn't do it, and you are actually doing it. So happy to be a part of it in any way possible. So that actually influenced my journey, that and actually changed my behavior, that maybe I'm doing something good and I should keep doing it. So whenever I am self doubt, I think about this time frame as well, all those conversations that I have had, that maybe they couldn't get the opportunity to work upon it, and maybe I got this opportunity, so why stop it now?
Thanks. Thank you so much, Shaurya. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time out to talk to us today. I hope you had a wonderful time as well.
Thank you so much, Suhavi. It was a lovely conversation. I actually enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today.